DNA is the molecule that's responsible for life. It stands for, we'll write this down once, deoxyribonucleic acid, spelled just like it sounds. Deoxyribonucleic acid. We're going to say DNA from now on. I might, as a multiple choice question, say, what does DNA stand for? And then give you 4 choices, all of which will have D's and N's and A's in them. So you need to memorize this. You should know that DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. Nick, am I going to make you spell it? No. Okay. DNA is made up of long strands, very long strands, of just 4 different molecules. You are created by, your all cells all come from, the genetic code for you is stored with 4 different molecules. That's it. We give them names by their first letter. The first one is called letter A, and it is a base called adenine, A-D-E-N-I-N-E. We'll use the letter capital A for that. The second one we'll use a capital letter T for, and it's called thymine, T-H-Y-M-I-N-E. The third one we'll use a capital letter C for. It's called cytosine, C-Y-T-O-S-I-N-E. And the fourth one we'll use a capital G for, and it's called guanine, G-U-A-N-I-N-E. The way that DNA stores information is by making what we call base pairs, and the different orders of pairs contain different genetic information. So how does DNA store all the info in you? I wrote down here, with your partner, come up with as many 4 base sequences as you can in 1 minute. We're just going to do this together. So starting with the letters A and C and T and G. Hey, there's one. Can you give me another way to jumble those? Give me another way to jumble those. Sierra, how else could I mix those 4 letters up? Brooke, how else could I mix those 4 letters up? Hannah, how else could I mix those 4 letters up? Now, with just 4, turns out there's actually 16 different ways that I can mix them up. Okay? That's just with 4. DNA comes in groups of 4, but each group of 4 can be mixed up in 16 ways. So what if you had 16 base sequences? How many ways could you mix those up? A lot. Well, it turns out the human genome contains over 3 billion, Alex, 3 billion base pairs. The total number of possible genetic sequences of letters is 4 to the power of 3 billion. I tried finding an online long number calculator that would crunch that, and I could not. So all I can tell you is it's really big. That's why every single human being is unique. We have about 4 billion humans. This is many, well, no, sorry, 4 billion. We have about 8.5 billion humans now. 4 billion is what it was when I was in high school. That slipped out. Population has doubled since I was a kid. We've got about 8.5 billion humans. We'll hit 10 billion in a while. You know what? You're not going to have even twins that are genetically, aside from twins that are genetically identical, you're not going to fluke out and have 2 people on opposite sides of the planet that somehow are identical. Ain't going to happen. So, what does DNA look like? the way it looks, its actual molecular structure, is key to our being able to have our cells reproduce fairly flawlessly. Stuff rarely goes wrong. Turns out the bases pair up like the sides of a ladder. So I'd like you to imagine a big long aluminum ladder, but then I'd like you to twist it so it spirals. Can you imagine that? You have to bend the aluminum, I realize. Okay? The bases pair up like the sides of a ladder. So A and T always pair up. C and G always pair up. You're going to have to remember, you're going to have to memorize what pairs with what. I'll give you a hint. Of these 4 letters, which 2 look the most alike? Okay, C and G go together. Heck, that's a C, that's a G. Okay, they go together. And then A and T go together. Okay? Strands of DNA can be millions or even billions of base pairs long. And the order of the base pairs is what contains the information. Josh, having the letters in a different order is what tells the ribosomes what protein to build, which is what makes you. And this is what we're slowly learning. We call this the human genome. We mapped it all right around the year 2000 or so, and we're slowly then learning, oh, this group of DNA base pairs in this order, that will code for a protein that you use to grow hair. That one will code for a protein that you use for your skin. That will code for a protein that you use for the little string that connects the bottom of your tongue to the bottom of your mouth. Everything. It's a lot of mapping, and we still don't know most of them, but we're getting there. This is what a DNA molecule looks like. If you could somehow zoom in. Do you see I said it looked like an aluminum ladder, but if you twisted the aluminum ladder so it spiraled, you can see A, which I've represented, this diagram is represented in green, matches with blue. What base pair does A always match with? T. Oh yeah, there's a T in blue. Okay? So if I have an A on the left, I'll have a T on the right. If I have a T on the left, I'll have an A on the right. Oh, and guanine is orange. It matches with red cytosine. And then these here are the backbone of the DNA that hold all the base pairs in place. We're going to do an assignment later on where you're going to color your own DNA and fill in the parts, and you'll get a feel for how it's all put together. Put your pencils down. So this is the DNA coloring sheet. This is what a piece of DNA might look like. It's a representation, because again, on the molecular level, Brooke, things aren't all rectangularly and flat and orderly, but it's a good representation. So we call this a double helix. A helix is like a ladder, and a double helix is like a spiral to the ladder. It's a ladder contained inside of a ladder. It's a double helix. It's often called the control center of the cell. So what I want you to do is read through this. In the diagram at the left, color all the phosphates pink. I've labeled one phosphate for you, so you're going to color those pink. P for pink, P for phosphate. You're going to color all the deoxyriboses blue. One is labeled with a D. The rungs of the ladder are pairs of 4 types of nitrogen bases. These pairs are known by their coded letters, A, G, T, and C. These bases always blah, 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 blah. You can read through that. You can pick a color to color the thymines. The thymines are the ones that are rectangular with a little arrow on the end. You can pick a color to color the A's, the adenines. Those are rectangular with a insert arrow on the end. You can pick a color to color the guanines. You can pick a color to color the cytosines. And then color the hydrogen bonds gray. What are the hydrogen bonds? I think, the sides of the DNA are held together by the hydrogen bonds. Where am I going here, Mr. Duke? The two sides. Color the hydrogen bonds gray. Where am I putting the hydrogen bond, Mr. Duick? I always got to think about this. I think it's the dots there are the hydrogen bonds. Yeah, that makes sense. There's the dots. Okay, you're going to color those gray. Then, pages 125 to 130, you can answer these questions on the back. We'll go over the answers at the end of class. Is that okay? I'll give you a few minutes to work on this. We may continue with the lesson. We may not. Depends how far you get.